China, once a showcase of economic miracle, is now facing a shocking reality: streets filled with homeless people. Many cities in China that were previously known for their wealth and modernity have become makeshift homes for a growing number of destitute individuals. This sudden and widespread homelessness has left many asking what went wrong with China's booming economy. Xiamen has recently become a trending topic on CCTV due to its passenger services, sparking significant public interest. As a national 5-level tourist attraction, it has faced frequent complaints from visitors about numerous scams, high expenses, and poor experiences. So, what exactly is going on? Let's take a first-person perspective to experience Xiamen full-service passenger services. Upon arrival, tourists are immediately coaxed by taxi drivers into purchasing a package deal costing $23 instead of the official ticket price of at least $5. The journey then includes visits to pearl shops and seafood markets, offering a seemingly rich itinerary. However, it turns out that tour guides receive a 50% commission for bringing tourists to these places. Moreover, the seafood sold is often dead and merely made to appear fresh by the vendors, showing a complete disregard for the tourists' well-being. It's truly embarrassing, utterly embarrassing. Xiamen's city landmark, Gulanju, has drawn public ire and made it onto CCTV's trending topics due to its full-service passenger scams. The situation is so bad that I believe the only thing still free on Gulanju is the air. Everything else is ridiculously overpriced. A bottle of mineral water costing 1 RMB is sold for 5 RMB inside the scenic area, a classic example of exploitation. Recently, after being exposed by CCTV, authorities have swiftly shut down 2 travel agencies, 3 restaurants, a pearl shop, and a tea shop for rectification. Guides involved in scams have had their licenses temporarily revoked, and drivers violating regulations have had their work permits cancelled. This response came quickly. But back to the point, why were numerous previous reports ineffective until CCTV's exposure? I hope our relevant departments will fulfill their responsibilities and not ruin Xiamen's reputation. Gulanju has become notorious for selling overpriced stuff to tourists. The current trend is to treat customers with sincerity, which is the secret behind the booming businesses in places like Zibo and Harbin. Finally, I want to say I love Xiamen. It's a truly beautiful coastal city, and I hope it can become even better. China's tourism industry is facing severe challenges, as exemplified by the situation in Xiamen, a once thriving coastal city. This popular tourist destination now presents a stark contrast to its former vibrant self. Local businesses are struggling to survive, with many stores, especially in the clothing sector, seeing very few customers. Restaurants are closing down or attempting to sell their spaces. The real estate market is also suffering, with falling prices for both new and second-hand homes. The city's population is decreasing, affecting the rental market as well. The economic downturn has led to job losses, with larger companies laying off staff and smaller ones shutting down. What happened to it? The RT Mart at Keitang officially closed. The entire first floor of Fu Mall now has only 2 stores left and is almost deserted, with very few people around. It is very quiet. The closure of the RT Mart supermarket in Xiamen Keitang Plaza has become the last straw that broke the camel's back. Keitang Plaza is completely finished. More and more large supermarkets are closed in Xiamen. Closed, and still closed. It's very quiet and deserted. Let's measure the sound levels a bit deeper inside the mall. We are now on the 4th floor of Keitang Plaza. This floor is supposed to have restaurants, but only 1 or 2 are still open, making the place feel very empty. There's hardly any foot traffic. Some children come here after school to walk around and play on the amusement facilities. Have you ever tried the pastries from this place? Right now we're live streaming. I've heard that after the demolition of Keitang, tens of thousands of people have moved away. Keitang used to be extremely lively. Now, it's clear that many businesses have closed, and the number of people has significantly decreased. We used to come here for karaoke, but now the foot traffic is much lower, and it's not as bustling as it used to be. The overall feeling is a bit desolate. Items that used to sell for thousands are now only selling for hundreds. Last year things were still quite normal, but since the demolition, the number of people has dwindled. Workers have mostly relocated elsewhere. In the late afternoon, around 4 or 5 p.m., Especially on weekends, students and people getting off work used to come here to play basketball, making the place very lively. For the entire year of 2023, Xiamen's GDP grew by just 3.1%, tying for last place with Harbin. Remember, this is a city that had an annual growth rate of 4.4%. It's like watching a star athlete who consistently won gold medals suddenly struggling to even qualify for the competition. This rapid decline suggests that the factors dragging down Xiamen's economy are not just temporary setbacks but potentially long-term structural issues. Have you noticed that there are fewer people in Xiamen this year? After the new year, which usually sees a peak in activity, many houses remain unrented. Urban villages on the island, such as Weili, Malong, Ando, and Dianqian, have many vacant homes. The streets and major shopping malls are noticeably less crowded. Keitang Square, Wanda Golden Street, and Li Duhui have all closed. Lin Wanda closed before it even opened, and wages for migrant workers are still unpaid. Wages at some tech and electronics companies are as low as 4,000 RMB per month, about 550 USD. After rent, utilities, and living expenses, there's hardly anything left. Xiamen has few industries, limited job opportunities, low wages, and high living costs. Most job postings are for sales, finance, or labor positions. Recent college graduates find it hard to secure competitive jobs in Xiamen, often settling for jobs that pay 4,000 to 5,000 RMB a month. Young people today find no compelling reason to stay. Many are moving abroad for better opportunities. Now, let's break down the economy into sectors to see where the problems lie. In 2023, Xiamen's secondary industry, which includes manufacturing and construction, actually shrank by 2.8%. This isn't just slow growth, it's a contraction in a sector that has traditionally been the backbone of China's economic miracle. For a country that built its economic powerhouse on manufacturing, this is a huge red flag. To put this into perspective, imagine a car factory that has been producing more cars each year, suddenly making fewer cars than the previous year. Now, imagine this happening not just in one factory but across an entire city's worth of industries. This contraction suggests that Xiamen's industrial base, which has been a key driver of its growth for decades, is now faltering. Xiamen is becoming increasingly difficult to live in, and its population might keep declining. I have a friend who has been in Xiamen for about 10 years, working various jobs like renovation, driving for Didi, doing ride sharing, and now delivering food. He earns around 825 USD a month, but after rent, utilities, and living expenses, there's not much left. This year, his girlfriend got pregnant, and the prenatal checkups used up all his savings. They had planned to get engaged on May 1st with a bride price of 40,000 USD, but her mother disagreed, saying he doesn't own a house in Xiamen or in their hometown, Chengting County. She forced her daughter to return home and have an abortion. After this experience, my friend realized that despite working in Xiamen for over a decade, he hasn't saved much money. Everyone working in Xiamen knows that the average salary is around 5,000 to 6,000 RMB, but ordinary workers often earn less. After rent, utilities, and living expenses, their salaries are exhausted. The cost of living in Xiamen is high. A casual meal or drinks with friends can cost hundreds of RMB. An unexpected illness can also cost a few hundred, often requiring the use of credit cards or installment services. Exports, which have been the lifeblood of many Chinese cities, fell by 3.9% in Xiamen in 2023. Now, 3.9% might not sound like much at first glance, but for a city that relies heavily on selling goods to other countries, it's a significant blow. Xiamen ranks 6th in China for how much it depends on exports. To understand the impact, imagine a store that gets 60% of its revenue from one product line, and then sales of that product drop by almost 4%. That store would be in serious trouble, and that's the situation Xiamen finds itself in. This decline in exports is particularly worrying because it suggests that Xiamen's products are becoming less competitive in the global market. It could be due to rising production costs, increased competition from other countries, or a slowdown in global demand. Whatever the cause, it's a clear sign that Xiamen can no longer rely on exports as its economic engine the way it has in the past. Foreign investment, which has been crucial for China's growth, is also taking a significant hit in Xiamen. In 2023, the city used $1.933 billion in foreign capital, which is 11.1% less than the year before. To understand how big this drop is, let's look at the previous years. In 2021, Xiamen used $2.1 billion in foreign capital, and this increased to $2.2 billion in 2022. So, in 2023, Xiamen lost almost $280 million in foreign investment compared to the previous year. That's like a company losing a major investor who had been providing a significant portion of its funding. This drop in foreign investment is not just about the money itself, it's a sign that international investors are losing confidence in Xiamen's economic prospects. It's as if the city has become less attractive as a place to do business, which could have long-term consequences for its economic growth. Also, let's step back and look at how Xiamen's economic structure has changed over time. In 2000, 52.7% of Xiamen's economy was in the secondary industry, factories, construction, and the like. The service industry, called the tertiary industry, accounted for 43.1%. Fast forward to 2023, and these numbers have completely flip-flopped. Now only 35.6% is in the secondary industry, while 64.1% is in services. At first glance, this might sound like progress. After all, many developed countries have strong service sectors. But the change happened so fast that it's left Xiamen vulnerable. It's like a bodybuilder suddenly losing all their muscle mass and trying to compete as a marathon runner without proper training. The rapid shift has left the city without the solid industrial base it once relied on, and it's not clear if the service sector is strong enough to pick up the slack. This rapid transformation raises questions about the sustainability of Xiamen's economic model. Has the city been able to develop high-value service industries to replace the lost manufacturing jobs? Are the new service jobs able to provide the same level of wages and economic stability as the industrial jobs they replaced? These are critical questions that will determine Xiamen's economic future. The concentration of Xiamen's remaining industry is also a major concern. In 2021, only one industry, computer, communication, and other electronic equipment manufacturing, had an output value over 100 billion yuan, reaching 304.273 billion yuan. This is like putting all your eggs in one basket, or investing all your money in a single stock instead of having a diverse portfolio. While specialization can sometimes be a strength, this level of concentration leaves Xiamen extremely vulnerable to sector-specific shocks. If anything happens to the global market for electronic equipment, say, a new technology makes current products obsolete, or a trade dispute disrupts supply chains, Xiamen's entire economy could be at risk. This lack of diversification is a significant weakness in the city's economic structure. Despite all these economic problems, Xiamen's housing market presents a puzzling contradiction. The average housing price is around 7,000 USD per square meter, making it the fourth most expensive place to buy a home in mainland China. This is like having the price tag of a luxury sports car on a used vehicle that's breaking down. It simply doesn't align with the economic realities on the ground. These high housing prices create a significant burden for residents who are already struggling with a slowing economy. It's as if the cost of living is stuck in boom times while the actual economy is in a downturn. This mismatch between housing costs and economic performance is stretching household budgets to the breaking point and could potentially lead to social unrest if not addressed. The persistence of high housing prices, despite the economic slowdown, also raises questions about the nature of China's real estate market. Is it driven by actual supply and demand, or is it propped up by speculation and government policies? The disconnect between housing prices and economic fundamentals suggests that there might be a bubble in Xiamen's real estate market, which could pose significant risks if it were to burst. The Chinese government has tried to address these economic challenges by introducing various stimulus measures. They've issued 1 trillion yuan in long-term government bonds, invested 344 billion yuan in semiconductor production, and allocated 300 billion yuan for state-owned companies to buy unsold homes. While these numbers sound impressive at first, when you compare them to China's total GDP in 2022, which was about 121 trillion yuan, they start to look relatively small. For instance, the 1 trillion yuan in bonds represents less than 1% of China's total GDP. It's like trying to fill an Olympic-sized swimming pool with a garden hose. While every little bit helps, these measures may not be sufficient to address the scale of the economic challenges facing Xiamen and other Chinese cities. Moreover, the focus of these stimulus measures raises questions about the government's strategy for addressing the economic slowdown. The investment in semiconductor production, for example, aligns with China's goal of becoming more self-sufficient in high-tech industries. But will this create enough jobs to replace those lost in traditional manufacturing? And will it benefit cities like Xiamen that are not already established tech hubs? The allocation of funds for purchasing unsold homes is an attempt to prop up the real estate market, but it doesn't address the fundamental issue of housing affordability. It's like putting a band-aid on a broken leg. It might prevent things from getting worse in the short term, but it doesn't solve the underlying problem. In the end, Xiamen's story is one of a city, and by extension a country, grappling with the growing pains of rapid economic development. The coming years will be crucial in determining whether Xiamen and China as a whole can navigate these challenges and find a new, sustainable path to prosperity. As we watch this story unfold, we're likely to gain valuable insights into the future direction of the world's second largest economy,